What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of X Factor Fantasy Football. I'm your boy Swiper. We got Jordan, and then we got the one, the only Jenna Garcia. I am so excited to be here. I can't wait, y'all. I'm trying to tell y'all, this is a great week. I don't know about y'all. I feel really good. My fantasy team, 3 straight wins after getting healthy, and y'all heard me. I had to defend myself versus Jenna, of all people, my friend, who was coming from my neck talking about I was 0-4. And here I am, 3-4, on the way up. Y'all, how y'all doing today?
Are you denying you were 0-4? Like
another week, another win. Doesn't matter who's playing, who's on bye, who's out for the season, ending injury, just keep winning. So good week.
Not a great week for me. Not a great week for me. I've
been
hella busy with so many things at work. I totally missed. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb for like 2 hours Sunday morning. I guess maybe more than 2 hours, but I was just trying to take a break from my phone. And this has happened 2 weeks back to back now. I had left a starter in who's been out. Montgomery killed me. But I didn't even have a backup running back, honestly. I didn't have anybody on my bench.
You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire you could have put in.
I would have had to. Right. But yeah.
Well, so, yeah, some stuff happened, but yeah. Okay.
Not a great week because I was going up against number 1, me, going up against number 2, Sosa, and he demolished me. So he rightfully took the throne. I will see when people earn it, Swiper. I can admit it. Your team is losing all those games, and you were mad at me for calling you out for losing. Stating facts.
With injury. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Hey, Jordan knows this. He's a Braun fan. They had an injury. They had Russell Westbrook on the roster and wondering why they couldn't win game. All of a sudden, Braun's healthy. The story changed. They go to the Western Conference Finals and get smoked out, but they still win. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be healthy. Yo, y'all. So we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we got Monday Night Football that's happening. If you look at your rosters, you look at fantasy football, I want to start with you, Jordan. Who are the best performances that you saw this week from a fantasy football standpoint?
It'd be easy to say Puka, because he's just continues what he's been doing. But I'm going to give a shout out to Christian Kirk, actually, because if you look, he's just been super, and it's more of a season-long thing, not as much as yesterday, but he's just been super reliable all year. I'm reading his box score. He had a stinker to start the season. Everybody was wondering, like, oh, see, Calvin's back. He's not going to get – and then from then, he's gone 21 points, 15 points, 16 points, 14 points, 13.9 points, 19 points. So just consistent starter, wide receiver 2 production since week 1 all the way through.
Did you get him on the waiver wire as well?
No, I got him late in the draft. But I got him because, like, even if it dropped off, he's still going to be like a usable piece. Now, he's exceeded my expectations. I thought he would be a usable flex piece, but he's borderline like wide receiver 2 type of a guy, that caliber of a guy week in and week out. So, and when you have guys like that, because I'm deep at the receiver position, the reason I'm giving him the shout out is because Puka is going to start for me no matter what at this point.
Right.
Christian is the kind of guy that, because I'm deep at that position, he could start one week and not start the next week. So I had guys on bye this week. So he was kind of going to start no matter what. I had CD on bye. D-Hop's very volatile. 1 week he can score a lot. 1 week he can get 3 or 4 points. So Christian kind of had to play no matter what. Didn't really have the options this week. And he stepped in and just continued what he's been doing. So I'm going to give him the shout out because he stepped in a situation where he had to produce because I had all the other guys on the bye, and he was able to do so.
Yeah, that's great. And just he's wide receiver 14 on the year, obviously before Tuesday tomorrow, and before the results and stuff tonight. Jenna, what about you? You got anybody that stands out to you as best performances from this weekend?
I got to give a shout out to AJ Brown. He got me a good chunk of points this week. Obviously had a good game last night. One of my favorite Sunday night games so far this season. Just great matchup last night.
15 targets last night.
Yes. But I feel like everybody, if you had AJ, like you already knew he was going to get that amount of targets.
4 straight 125-yard games. I think him and Calvin Johnson, I think he tied the record with Calvin.
Yeah, he's been real. real nice. But one guy that I thought stood out personally was Rashee Rice.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, out of
I thought he had a
nowhere.
really nice week. He's doing a lot on a very few amount of targets too. Like the yards after reception have been there. And honestly, like he's been on my bench a couple times when he probably should have been in the starting lineup. So got to give him a shout out as well.
Yeah, Rashee Rice out of nowhere, 5 catches, 60 yards, and a TD. Marquette Valdez-Scantling, who I actually drafted thinking he'd be the wide receiver 1 for Kansas, and it didn't work out at all. 3 receptions, 84 yards, and a TD. So if I'm just looking at it, y'all, I think Travis Kelce, he was the number 1 player in fantasy this week with 35.9, had over 100 yards at halftime. I don't know if that Taylor Swift thing is real, but all I know is ever since she started going to the game, he's averaging over 100 yards a game. I don't know if it's real or not, but I'm just saying that's a real stat. Patrick Mahomes balls out. But y'all, man, Lamar Jackson, you know what's so funny about Lamar? Everybody was so up and down on him going into this year because you had, Jordan Jennings, the 2019 season MVP, crazy numbers, one of the best seasons ever in fantasy football. Next 2 years, up and down, a lot of different things that are happening. And then now he gets his contract, y'all. Lamar Jackson has 36 rushing yards, 357 passing yards, a rushing TD, and a passing TD. Y'all, and he's been fairly good for most of the year. He has a couple games here that were mid, not great fantasy outputs, but he's currently QB4 on the season, and especially amidst a lot of turmoil, up and down play. Josh Allen, not knowing what you're going to get from him and some others, he's been really, really good. Y'all, but out of nowhere, again, this is why it's important to work the waiver wire.
Yes.
Deontay Foreman.
Yep.
Who has Deontay Foreman in the league? Y'all know specifically who got him? Was that Ev?
Not Ev. Someone has him. There might be Sosa. I think it's Sosa.
Yeah, I think it actually is Sosa.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sosa. Kajina went up against him. Yeah, that's right. Deontay Foreman had 33 points. He had 89 rushing yards, 31 reception yards, and he had 2 rush TDs and a reception TD. Now, I thought that the Raiders were going to ball out. I actually started the Raiders defense. They're playing against nobody, and all of a sudden Deontay Foreman goes off and has a great game. I also want to say this, y'all. Again, this is why, for me, Jordan especially, because you know this, you got to go with your gut.
Yeah.
You have to go with your gut. Yeah. Because everybody was telling me that going into this year that you don't want to trust Alvin Kamara.
Oh, yeah.
Because his workload wasn't going to be there. He's been inefficient as a runner. He is, since he came back, which is 4 weeks, he's basically running back 1 in fantasy since he touched the field again. He had 12 receptions, Jordan, the other night.
Yeah, I don't know. I was never on that train. And he's actually a really good example for me of a point that I try to make in general. Or like 1, I think we can kind of overthink things with fantasy sometimes. 2, like you said, trust your gut. But 3, I still think if you drafted him early, you made a mistake.
Right.
He's the kind of guy where if you play it right, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can draft him. I think I drafted him in the 7th round. That's probably even a bit low. I think anywhere from 5 to 7 was a sweet spot. If you draft a guy like that low, because of the suspension and because of the reservations people have, if you don't reach early and you get him somewhere around that 5th round or so, where he's probably not going to be drafted yet, you're going to be the first one to take him as opposed to the other people. Yeah, you get your cake and eat it too. Like when I drafted him, even though I drafted him in the 7th round, I had RB2 expectations, RB1 upside on my mind. And I drafted him later though, just because I knew I'd be able to get him later. So he's a good test case for. There are different guys, and these guys vary from year to year, be it suspension, situation, injury, thoughts coming into the season. There are these guys though where you can draft them late, but just because you drafted them late for your team, and depending on who it is, you can still have expectations for them to be a pivotal starter for your team. So you just got to know how to assess value and where you can get guys in drafts.
But even with that though, Jordan, I took him in the 8th round in another league. And in our league, I remember I told you when you drafted him, I was planning to get him in the 8th where he was. And so then you got him before I did. But I'm telling y'all, like, if you have players you believe in, there's 2 players in late round. There's 3 players actually in late round running back. All summer I was targeting. Alvin Kamara, who else can he get in the 6th? And then I think it was Isaiah Pacheco. And then it was Javonte Williams. Now, Javonte's going to take a while because of his knee. But Isaiah, is even having a really good year in fantasy, and especially where you could have got him.
Yep.
He's currently running back 8.
Yeah.
But people were down on him because he's a 7th-round pick, because they thought the field was going to be split up between him, Jerick McKinnon, and CEH. But if you go with your gut and you buy in, and again, I think Jenna's another one. Jenna had this draft where during the draft, I remember watching her go through her process, and I was like, you know what? Some of those decisions I wouldn't have made, but Jenna had a philosophy. She had something she believed in, got David Montgomery, got Brian Robinson, and then took Keenan Allen in the 4th. And then you got a really good stack with Justin Herbert. And next thing you know, you're 5-1, about to be 5-2, but you start off 4-0. So again, if you have a strategy, you have to go with your gut. And sometimes that means breaking away with some of the analytics.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree. Kenneth Walker was another one for me. Where
what round did you get him in?
I can't remember, but I'm more so referring to the role that people thought he would play,
right,
and like how you would be a rely upon him week to week. For me, he was no question RB2, maybe more, but no question RB2. That was my value of him going into the draft. And then you look up, and you're getting better than that. And people thought the backfield split would be a problem. At least to this point, no signs of it being that being the case. So again, you just trust your gut, trust your read of the situation, and don't overthink it.
I love that, y'all. But y'all know what time it is. Biggest disappointments. All right, Jenna, let's go. Who's your biggest disappointment of the week so far?
Well, probably Keenan Allen. Like, he didn't have a terrible week, you know. He still got a few touches, but points-wise, it just wasn't there, like, on par with weeks in the past. 9 points is just kind of below what I would have expected for him. What do you get? 4 receptions on how many targets? So I just felt like 9 targets. Like, he just didn't pull in as much as I thought he would have. Obviously, I think that game was tougher than the Chargers expected it to be. I don't know what's up with Brandon Staley. Like, if I had to pick one coach who's like definitely gonna lose his job, if I had to bet on one, it would be Brandon Staley. He keeps making really weird decisions in moments that have cost them the game a little bit. And so it's like, I can't really even, assess this Chargers team this year. I'm so disappointed. Like, year after year, same old Chargers chargering.
Yeah, and speaking of Chargers, Jordan, Austin Eckler, another player that had a really bad game. And again, you draft Austin Eckler, that's a top 4 fantasy player. And then that he doesn't produce at all. But another theme, and maybe it is just the running backs that you got high outside of CMC, you just don't know. And then even Saquon, because the injuries took a while. Bijan Robinson. This is one thing about fantasy that can be a little annoying. You can go into a week expecting that the player's going to have a similar workload as other weeks, and you don't hear anything about illnesses or any potential things like that because they don't want to give that information out. So you show up to the game, you start Bijan Robinson, and then all of a sudden you're seeing Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson out there for 90% of the reps, and you're sitting here like, what's going on? Oh, by the way, Arthur Smith, he was sick all week. We didn't want to use him, but he went to the game, tried to play, but he can't play. Now you're sitting there saying, well, I just would have started Tyler Algier, or I would have picked up Cordero Patterson and I wouldn't be here. Bijan Robinson, 0.3 fantasy points this last week. And this is a dude that you drafted in the top 8. So Austin Eckler, Bijan Robinson. Then you had Keenan Allen a little bit. And Cooper Kupp this past week, massively disappointing. Again, these are players that you expect to carry your roster. And Cooper Kupp, projected for 21.35 points, ends up with 6.9. But again, mostly because of target. Now, to be fair, Cooper Kupp had 2 drops to start the game off as well. I was really frustrated with that. But again, throughout the rest of the game, Puka Nacua continues to dominate, continues to take over. So that would definitely be my biggest disappointment of this week.
Yeah, I agree with that. Cooper for sure. Cooper Kupp for sure. Eckler for sure. I'm going to go with let's see. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson.
Oh, man.
From this perspective.
The whole season?
Him, But the reason I'm choosing him is because I have Amari Cooper on my team.
Yeah.
And any other quarterback than Deshaun being in there is just not going to happen for Amari because they don't know how to utilize a bona fide number one option for whatever reason, unless you're Deshaun Watson in that offense. And it was kind of hit or miss even with Deshaun early in the year, but you could see the chemistry was getting better. They had a few weeks there where, like 3 weeks in a row before Deshaun got hurt, where they were clicking, and you were getting wide receiver 2, borderline low end wide receiver 1 production out of Amari Cooper for those weeks, and then Deshaun goes down, and then Deshaun comes into the game starting, and then Deshaun goes out. So if Deshaun's on the field, you feel confident about Amari Cooper, even if you don't feel confident about Deshaun. From a fantasy standpoint, you feel confident about Amari Cooper being able to give you low end wide receiver 1, regular wide receiver 2 production. But if he's not out there, they're just going to run the ball, or the quarterback that is in there is not going to be able to properly target him, and they're not going to be on the same page.
Right.
So I say Deshaun Watson because it's not really on Amari. Amari did what he was supposed to do. He was getting open. He just was not getting hit. Then he had 8 targets and had 2 receptions. That to me is an indicator of either you're not putting him in the high percentage situations, or your quarterback is making bad throws. And I watched that game, and that is what was happening. It's on Deshaun because he went out with I believe it was concussion symptoms.
In his head, back of his head.
Deshaun is my disappointment because I have Amari Cooper on my team.
Yeah. Well, I added the Detroit Lions to that list for getting 35 pieced.
Yep,
they definitely deserve that.
Yep. They got boat race from the beginning.
Calvin Ridley.
Another one.
Mm-hmm.
Another one. That one hurt.
Ooh,
he was part of my. Instead of taking Kamara, I took Calvin Ridley's yards, I think, in that game on a parlay. And it was the only leg that didn't hit. It just, it killed me.
Yeah, it's been really frustrating watching Calvin this year. You would hope that he turns it around as the year goes on, but it's not looking all that good right now. All right. Well, y'all know what time it is. Monday Night Football. This, honestly, could end up being a really interesting game tonight. So the San Francisco 49ers are reportedly going to have Christian McCaffrey playing tonight. And so you're going to see Christian McCaffrey. You're going to see Deebo Samuels is out. Brandon Ayuk is available. George Kittle's available. And obviously Brock Purdy's available with the San Francisco defense. And you're playing versus the Minnesota Vikings with no Justin Jefferson. Y'all, who are you playing tonight on either side of the ball? And then, Jordan, you're muted.
Sorry. All of my 49ers are playing, and maybe flexing a Jordan Addison. And and of course I'm playing Hockenson as well.
Yeah.
Kirk, if you've gotten to this point, you haven't played a quarterback yet, you probably starting Kirk because you either have him as, a starter or as a streamer. So those are the guys, but I really only feel comfortable with Hockenson. And even then, they're going against the Niners defense. And their defense, the Vikings defense on their own, is not good. So if that game gets out of hand and you're having to just throw the ball, that's not going to be fun to watch if you're a Vikings fan.
Oh, man.
It was the weekend of the tight ends. We
was,
didn't even talk about it. Last week we talked about how the tight ends haven't been showing up. And then this weekend, tight ends after tight ends, TDs. I like both tight ends, I guess, in this situation with Kittle and Hockenson. I think they could combine for a good amount of yards tonight if you're looking to make a bet. There's a bonus bet on DraftKings. Sponsor us, DraftKings. Where, there's a bonus bet plus 100 for them to combine for 80 plus yards receiving.
Combine for okay.
Not too bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, no, you're right.
In my other league.
National Tight End Week, you had a total of, this is actually a lot. So, Jenna, thank you for this. You had 9 tight ends with double-digit fantasy points this last week. So, again, maybe, I don't know if coaches intentionally do this, but you had David Njoku, Sam Laporta, Gerald Everett, Dalton Kincaid, Tyson Hill, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, and Travis Kelce with George Kittle and TJ Hockenson playing tonight. So you potentially could have double-digit tight ends go off. So that's actually a really great get. And you know what? you're trying to end the week well, maybe you can get a nice little bet going there with DraftKings. So shout out.
Yeah, if Darren Waller is scoring touchdowns, then you know something's in the water. So
Right.
definitely, I might actually make that bet.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Well, y'all, that's going to do it for today's episode. We'll be back on Wednesday with the waiver wire episode, and we're getting ready already, y'all, for week 8 of fantasy football. We have been on the move. We've done 2 episodes at least every single week. So this is our 15th episode so far that we're able to do. We've been building a community as we've been going. By the way, y'all have a last question. The question that we have from an audience member today is, trade Amari for either Calvin Ridley or Deontay. What would y'all do? Would y'all trade Calvin Ridley or trade Amari Cooper for Ridley or Deontay Johnson?
No, I want Amari Cooper. I want Amari
crazy.
Cooper. Yeah.
Yeah, not after what I saw from Ridley this week.
Because with Amari, the only question is Deshaun's health. And I know it is a question at this point, but the other 2 have questions beyond the health of their quarterback. So
yeah, that's insane that Calvin Ridley has dropped that far. So yeah, I'm probably keeping Amari Cooper right now, but again, long-term play, I might take Calvin. So I don't know, man. That's a little tough. But y'all, that's going to do it for another episode of X Factor Fantasy Football. We will be back on Wednesday around 6 p.m. Eastern. And y'all, we will see y'all on the other side.